and that tenant is a resident of Ohio, and so forth and so on. No issues whatsoever. You could certainly do it. Now, when does an issue arise? An issue arises when you are required to in some way go to court.
Yeah, right.
And if you have to go to court, you have to register yourself in that particular state in order to be able to pursue an eviction or to pursue an action for damages or anything of that nature against that person. Otherwise, no, you don't. There's nothing else you need to do.
So then I could not register, wait until I had an issue like having to evict. And if I have to go to court to evict, then I could register right then and there and not be found negligent or from the jurisdiction there in the state in which I had not registered previously.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And that was in a very recent circumstance, my suggestion to this particular client in Massachusetts. He was fretting not being registered in Massachusetts. And it was kind of like, so what?
Okay.
You're not registered. Tell you what, if the time ever comes and you have to register, register. But you know, the disadvantage of having to register at that point is you subject yourself to the jurisdiction of the court.
Right.
So why would you really want to do that unless you really think you need to?
Now the other side for us, because we typically buy our turnkeys through our trusted advisors who are the managers, and they have the management company, and they, on behalf of us in whatever state that they are in, would actually go and evict for us. So in that case, it was problem solved, right?
Yeah, problem solved. That's a great distinction. You bet.
Yeah, good.
Okay, I'm going to open it back up because otherwise I'm about to just simply summarize and finish up. So
okay, yeah. Let me pull. Let me go back and maybe I'll pull backwards here just to catch the most recent ones. All right, let's see. Kevin and Liz, at what point do you start out doing something like this? I assume the overall structures before you buy any property, after owning so many properties, or a certain dollar amount, or equity, I guess would be another way to put it. Is it all or nothing to start creating this kind of structure with the LLCs, holding company, et cetera, or are there baby steps to begin the process? Good question.
It's a great question. And you bring these things in order. There are some things that do become appropriate. So for example, and I have a recent, based on a referral from a dentist who is a Freedom Founder member, just a young couple, they're late 20s, and he's just gung-ho to put this structure in place. And it's kind of like, you know what, there's time.
Right.
Let's get your fundamental documents. Let's just make sure we have your fundamental documents in place. Put together a will, put together, certainly a living will, a designation of healthcare, just the standard estate planning documents. Let's give yourself one opportunity at this point in time to have an investment company that we can begin the process of using. So, we create the one investment company at that point. We don't have to distinguish when you don't have anything to distinguish about. So you're starting with one company that you can then use, because that's clearly better than taking it in your individual name anyway. So start at that level. You have your estate planning docs intact, and then you now begin responding to the world around you. And as that occurs, that's one of the reasons, I don't know if you remember, David, but when I gave the lecture I think it was up in the mountain, I gave that talk. Up in the mountain, I called them bolt-on entities.
Right.
They're bolt-ons because there's no magic to when you start. You can start whenever the circumstances suggest that you start. And then you just begin to bolt on as opportunities arise.
Yeah, Nathaniel, you don't have to do it this second, but could you go to, that was June of 2019. That was Snow Basin. So could you go and pull sometime the link to Larry's presentation? That would be a good one for us to put back in the portal, because it's a nice adjunct to what he's done here. So let's grab that, because people want to watch that one. All right. my question about anybody having any issues with institutional financing and taking title in an LLC, Peter Fairheath says no. Todd Thompson, you said yes. Do you want to speak to that, Todd, and let us know what you ran up against?
So you asked the question in two different ways, and that's why you got two different answers.
Okay. Be clear.
I meant,
clarify.
no problem.
No, help us out. So we'll jump back in because I forgot how I asked the question. So give me some clarification. So I'm not, because right now
your first question, the first question was, have you ever done it successfully? And I said yes.
Okay.
We've had no problems with that.
All right. So looks like it's not an issue. So I just want to double check with our members and make sure. So thank you both. All right. Thank you both for clarifying that. Let's see, David Scharf. Is the due on sale clause a potential issue if the property is retitled in the name of an LLC? I think you clarified that as long as it's your LLC, not somebody else's, right, Larry?
Yeah.
Yeah, that you control it.
Also, by the way, I do want to mention one thing because I've gone round and round with a Texas-based client of mine who is in the real estate business and buys properties. And the sellers are scared to death about the due on sale clause. They're just scared to death about the due on sale clause. And it's kind of like a paper tiger because most people may not remember, the advantage and disadvantage of being around a while, right? I was around when due on sale clauses got created.
Right.
And the reason was because there was a huge gap between what was happening with the escalating interest rates and what these mortgages were on real estate. And so the lenders got smart. And as they then started to put new mortgages on property, they inserted this because they wanted they have a 3.5% mortgage rate and the current interest rate is 10%. The property gets sold without a due on sale clause and they assume a 3.5% mortgage. So they created this. So that's the origin of it. Now every mortgage has a due on sale clause. But the difference between a mortgage having a due on sale clause and a due on sale clause actually being exercised as a practical matter are two very different things. So nowadays, I don't have very much experience, and I'd open it up to the group, of a lender where you have a low interest rate economy at this juncture, having a great deal of interest in calling due a mortgage that's performing. Now, if the mortgage doesn't perform, that's a whole different story. But if the mortgage is performing, which certainly would happen in the case of a sale, because it gets sold and the buyer continues to perform, they have very little incentive to exercise a due on sale. And candidly, I haven't seen it for several years, except when there were unusual circumstances, like they absolutely wanted the borrower off the books. They wanted that property off the books, but otherwise I haven't seen it. So is it a practical question to ask, how does it affect the transfer to an LLC affect the due on sale clause? It is, and I answered that. It doesn't have any, it makes no difference because you own it. But having said that, I wouldn't be terribly concerned in this economy in any event as to the applicability of the due on sale clause.
Yeah, that's been the experience we've seen. Well, we've had 40 years of declining interest rates, right? So now they start going back up again, then I would probably have some concern. But to your point,
different story, but not for right now.
Yeah, Larry, when should a life insurance trust be used?
I'm not real big on life insurance trusts to begin with. However, if you do have multiple beneficiaries, there is an advantage to a life insurance trust just by way of administration of them. In addition to which, if the proceeds of the life insurance are intended to be managed in a way that is not going to be the outright disposition of the proceeds, then obviously a trust is the best way to do that. And a life insurance trust limits the asset to the life insurance proceeds themselves. So that would be an additional reason for doing it. Other than those two reasons, not really sure there's a lot of need for it because you can certainly have multiple beneficiaries of a life insurance trust. Now, if it starts to, unless it becomes too cumbersome, or unless the proceeds of, or the beneficiaries of the life insurance policy are going to be minors and are pretty much intended to be minors by the time the life insurance ultimately vests.
All right, good. All right, Big Jim Rocker asks this: who is best to be the manager of the management LLC, yourself or multiple family members? He says, the quote, own nothing, control much. I think Rocker, I'd make you the manager of my stuff because I want a lightning rod out there that has a lot of assets and can stand up. Right, Larry? I mean,
I was just going to say, I'm going to point Jim. Absolutely.
Well, we all want you, Jim. Jim, stand up and take that responsibility. But go ahead and answer his question if you would, Larry.
So no, I mean, certainly can you, so the manager by definition is a corporation. So you have the manager of each one of these things as a corporation. And so then the question becomes, who's the president of the corporation who is operating as a manager? Could it be, in my case, me? Sure. In Jim's case, Jim, sure. In Jim's case, a very talented son or daughter of his, sure. In my case, the president of my management corporation is Janet, is my wife, and who's got an MBA and who has been running companies with me for our entire married life. So yeah, but I mean, I guess the short answer is keep it close to home.
Good. And then question about goes back to forming the LLC. If you're going to form an LLC in any state, your own state or in a state where you're actually buying maybe multiple turnkeys, the question is, how do you get the structure in place in time to purchase the properties? So really the question is, Larry, how do you have your guns set? You're thinking about it, you're getting prepared, you've done due diligence, and now you're just waiting for that turnkey to come up. So how long does it take to get the structure in place once you're ready to pull the trigger and take a property, which, if you get financing, it's going to take some weeks anyway. If you pay all cash, you're still going to have, at least a couple of weeks for title work to be done and closing. So just give some practicality to that question, if you would.
Yeah, and that really is the answer. I mean, the answer is, it's not like, you're going to suddenly come on a property and close this thing tomorrow. It's going to take some time anyway. And virtually, I'm not going to say virtually all states, because that's not true, but certainly the vast majority of states, they have electronic filing for entities. They're a little bit delayed now. They're delayed because of, COVID and all of that. So they tend to be delayed because in some cases they're not in the offices working, et cetera. But so you might not necessarily get it back particularly quickly. But I mean, from a practical standpoint, for example, I'll tell you about the guy in Denver just the other day. So he'd been doing his due diligence on this thing, and he now had made a decision. He came to terms on the buy of this business. He has some more deliverables that he's going to be getting. And he calls me and says, listen, I need you to create some closing documents for me, and here's what I want to do, and so forth. It's time to form the company. And we formed it, and we had it done by the end of the day. I mean, it was all electronic, and it's formed by the end of the day, and now we're going forward. So yeah, I would not, I don't think that you have to lead with your chin too far in advance. But on the other hand, when you've made the decision that you're moving forward, it's probably the appropriate time to form at that time.
Perfect. By the way, thanks Nathaniel Brunner for putting the link to Larry's Snow Basin top of the mountain presentation from a little over a year ago. It's there. If you want to click that link, then you all will have it and you can watch it later at your discretion. Let's see, we're down to last. So Peter Fairhey asked a cardiologist question here. Well, where in the architecture could one use the Section 1202 provision to reduce capital gains tax by 50%, say in a trade or business that has stock?
Oh my.
I know. That's why I said it's a cardiologist question. I'm not going to touch it.
Well, absolutely. I'll be doing some surgery on Peter right now. Tell you what, I'm going to pass on that one.
I don't blame you. We'll take that to Duck and Lad. All right.
Yeah, I was just gonna say.
Grab that. You know, let's throw it to those guys and see what they do with it. All right. Let's play hot potato. All right, Larry, you just tossed it.